It feels wrong to even write this out, but I can't talk about this with anyone in my life, and I'm really struggling. Some background. My wife and I got together right before infection 19 hit, which led us to move in together faster than I think we normally would have. A little over a year later, we got married. We were both students at the time, although both of us were working part-time as well. Since then, I've gotten my degree and started working full-time. While she's still a student, and will be for at least a few years after switching her major a couple of times. She had multiple pets when we got together, and I knew how much they meant to her. Even though I'm really not a pet person, I love animals. I just prefer to not have pets myself. I got into the relationship and moved in with the knowledge that those pets would become my responsibility as well. And I actually really do love them. I also realized very early into the relationship that she has attention deficit hyperactivity disorder, which she has since been diagnosed with. This has led to her being sometimes impulsive and irresponsible with money, but never enough for us to not be able to pay our rent or bills, even though she has occasionally borrowed money from her parents. Partly because of her attention deficit hyperactivity disorder, and partly because of the pets, she has never been able to keep her own or our apartment tidy. Current situation. Since I've started working full-time, I'm making almost 4 times more money than her. We both agreed that it would be insane for us to continue splitting the cost of living 50-50, so I pay our rent and the car, plus half the bills and groceries. She pays her half of the bills and groceries. I'm happy to take on more of the financial burden, so she doesn't have to worry about working more hours while studying. But lately, it feels like her spending has gotten more irresponsible, and she has asked me for money to pay some bills. I've also begun to pay for all of the groceries. At the same time, she has gotten several new tattoos and traveled multiple times to visit her friends. Meanwhile, I'm always completely broke before my next payday. I'm also 90% responsible for all of the chores around the apartment, including taking care of the pets. I clean, I do the laundry, I load and unload the dishwasher, and I take out the trash. Cooking is split maybe 60-40, with my wife doing most of that. But even then, most of the time I have to figure out what we're having. I've begged her to pick up some of the chores, but she always either says she'll get to it later and then forgets, or she'll just straight up claim she doesn't know how to do it well enough. My wife is also really busy, as on top of her working part-time and studying full-time, she has multiple hobbies. These hobbies usually take place in the late evening, and she works in the mornings, so she's home maybe a couple of hours in the afternoon or early evening most days. I like to go to the gym straight after work because my gym is on the way home, and this way it's easier to stay consistent. However, my wife often guilts me into coming home before I go because she says it's the only time we have to spend together. More often than not, I come home and she's taking a nap. And I can't get her to wake up before she has to leave. Lately, I've been in a position to be able to pick up some extra work, and I've thought, what the hell, she's busy anyway, and we could use the extra money. This has led to arguments about me not wanting to spend time with her, and it escalates to her crying and me having to apologize if I point out that she's away from home a lot more than I am. Problem. Question. I am so tired. I love my wife so much, but I feel like I'm becoming bitter. Sometimes I don't feel like going home after work, since I know the apartment is going to be a mess, and I'm already overwhelmed from work. I've tried to talk to her about all of this, except money, but I'm also not in the mood to argue, since it always turns out to be me apologizing. Is there any way to save us, and how could I make her understand my point of view? I don't want to change her as a person, and I don't mind her having hobbies and passions, but I feel like our life completely revolves around her wants and needs. I do love her, and I know she loves me, but sometimes I feel like she only keeps me around as a pet sitter and a maid. I feel like our marriage revolves only around my wife's wants and needs, and the distribution of labor, time, and finances feels unfair. What can I do to make my wife see my point without destroying my marriage or making her feel like I'm trying to change her? Now for a few comments before the update. You married a literal child. and she has frozen her own development and not grown up. You are treating her more like a child than a wife, and she is treating you more like a parent than a husband. This will never change unless you consciously work to change it. If you don't know what that means, seek the help of a therapist or marriage counselor. This happened to my husband with his first wife. They married when she was only 24, and she never really grew up, even though they had 3 children. He eventually burned out of doing everything 18 years in. Part of being in a marriage is arguing and getting into verbal fights to clear the air. If something is bothering you, you need to let it be known, because she is living her life at your expense and misery. If she gets mad for a couple of days and doesn't talk to you, so be it. Stand your ground and tell her that things need to change. I don't think she will ask for a divorce. I think she is just testing your limits to see how far she can go. And you have not stopped her, so she keeps going further out. Good luck. Now for the update. A few days after that dinner, things started to feel off with my wife, Emily. You know that vibe when someone just isn't present? Yeah, that was her. I got home from work one day and there she was, scrolling through her phone like it was the most exciting thing ever, not even looking up when I walked in. I thought I'd at least get a "hey babe" or something, but no idiots here, not this time. I asked her what she was up to, thinking maybe she was looking at cute dog videos or something, but she just brushed me off like I was a fly buzzing around her head. Just looking at social media, she said. Okay, Emily. Whatever you say. I figured she needed her space or something and decided to hit the gym after work. At the gym, I overheard 2 guys talking about a party happening that weekend. One of them mentioned Emily by name, saying she was going to be there. What? I mean, it caught me off guard. I asked them how they knew her, and they said she was friends with someone from their college. I didn't think much of it at first, but something started nagging at me. When I got home, I casually brought up the party, asking if she wanted to go together. She hesitated for a moment and then said she didn't want to go, claiming she had too much work. Her whole vibe changed when I mentioned the party. She seemed anxious, and I couldn't shake the feeling that something was up. A couple of days later, while I was putting some stuff away, I found a receipt for a dress hidden in her closet. I mean, this dress was pricey, like ridiculously. So for something she would just wear out for fun. So naturally, I confronted her about it, and she said it was for a friend's wedding. She seemed uneasy, like she was hiding something, and then quickly changed the subject. Yeah, my suspicions were on high alert at this point. I decided to drop it again for the time being, but I couldn't shake this feeling that something was way off. That weekend, I went to the party after all, telling her I needed some time out. As I pulled up, I saw Emily's car parked outside the venue. My heart started racing. Inside, there she was, laughing and dancing with some dude I didn't even recognize. I mean, I wasn't expecting that. I approached her, and she looked shocked to see me there. I asked her who the guy was, and she introduced him as a classmate. We exchanged pleasantries, but I could tell something was off. Emily seemed super nervous or something. When her phone buzzed, she quickly picked it up and stepped away to take the call. I don't know. Something in my gut told me to follow her, so I did. I kept my distance, but I overheard her talking about meeting up later and needing to keep it a secret from me. Her words hit me hard. When she returned, I confronted her about it, and she got all defensive. I asked her what she was hiding, and she insisted it was nothing. I left the party feeling frustrated and confused, like everything was falling apart. The next day, I went to a local thrift store to clear my head. While browsing, I bumped into a woman who recognized me from the party. She mentioned that Emily had been really flirty with that classmate all night. I felt this surge of anger but kept my cool, thanking her for the info. I mean, I needed more evidence, didn't I? I started tracking Emily's social media, looking for any hints about what she was up to. A week later, I found photos of her at another party with the same guy. I saved the photos, feeling this sense of determination. I decided to host a dinner at our place, inviting her parents and my brother. I thought it would be a good idea to bring up the situation casually to see how she'd react. During dinner, I mentioned the recent parties and asked her if she had fun. She seemed super uneasy, like she was caught off guard. That's when I decided to drop the news. I revealed the photos. I watched her face go pale as I laid everything out. There was no hiding from the truth now. I feel like I'm stuck in this never-ending maze, honestly. Emily's been avoiding me ever since the dinner, like a deer in headlights whenever I try to talk about what went down. It's like she's living in her own little world, and I'm just a ghost haunting the edges. I can't shake off this feeling that something's about to explode, and I'm gonna be right in the middle of it. I've tried to distract myself, but every time I close my eyes, all I see is her with that guy. I'm just here, waiting for the next twist in this messed up story. Awaiting developments. I just want to know the truth, whatever that may be. Edit. I have confronted Emily about what happened. She admitted to kissing the guy, but said there was nothing else. She claims she felt neglected by my focus on work and the gym. This led her to seek attention elsewhere. I asked her about the parties, and she said they were just friendly gatherings with classmates. I am still processing everything. I feel a mixture of anger, hurt, and confusion. It's hard to know what's real and what's an excuse. Am I the idiot for refusing to change my profile picture after my boyfriend's father became the social media police? My boyfriend and I have been dating for almost 5 years, and I get along well with his parents. Recently, we visited his parents, and as we were chatting, my boyfriend's father jokingly said he needed to talk to me about my social media. Confused, I made a lighthearted comment, but it caught me off guard. My boyfriend's mother was laughing at my reaction, as she didn't know what my boyfriend's father was going to say. My boyfriend's father was talking about my Facebook profile picture. Apparently, I was suggested to him on Facebook, and he saw my Facebook profile picture and stated it wasn't a good idea to have it due to employers. To clarify, 1. I don't use Facebook often. I have friends and family on there, and this photo has been up for at least 4 months now. 2. The picture in question is a mirror picture in a bikini with a long cover-up on. My leg is a bit exposed. 3. I thought my profile settings restricted strangers from seeing my photos. I was kind of stunned, feeling awkward and embarrassed, and pulled out my phone because I genuinely did not know what photo he was referring to. My boyfriend was standing next to me and immediately started saying, "Yeah, my name, change the profile picture." He didn't know what the photo was, but just sided with his dad. At that point, I was just awkwardly swiping on my phone because I didn't know what to do. My boyfriend was just saying, "Yeah," siding with his father, and didn't add anything to the conversation. He knows I get anxious in situations like this. My boyfriend's mother asked my boyfriend's father what the photo was, and she went to find it. And my boyfriend's father was just talking about how he was shocked to see the photo and how there are a lot of creeps out there. And I was again just standing there awkwardly, not really saying much with my phone in my hand. My boyfriend then left me to go to his room to do something, and again I was just standing there, not saying much. And then my boyfriend said, "Okay, just change it after," and came back and tried to grab my phone out of my hand. The conversation kind of just died down. And then I went to my boyfriend's room to just lay down and analyze what just happened. My boyfriend goes to the living room where my boyfriend's father and mother were and starts yelling, "My name, come to the living room." He knew why I went to his bedroom. I just ignored my boyfriend because I wasn't sad or upset. I just wanted to lay down. Later in the night, my boyfriend's father spoke to me privately, saying how he didn't want me to take offense to what he said, and he was just looking out for me due to my line of work and creeps being out there. I explained that I did not think the photo was problematic, though my intent was to restrict public access. Now, my boyfriend doesn't understand why I'm upset with how he handled it after I explained I felt very alone. How can I explain to him where I am coming from? Now, for a few comments before the update. Comment 1. OP, your boyfriend is a jerk. He's probably been all over your Facebook, so why did he side with his dad? Why is his dad creeping on your social media? Good for you for removing yourself from the situation and double-checking how private your account is. I hate Facebook when they update and clear your settings, but know that your profile picture is usually always visible to anyone who stumbles on your page. Tell your boyfriend how much he disappoints you for not defending you when his dad is creeping on your social media. You don't appreciate being ganged up on, and it's rude. But you need to work on managing your responses because stuff like this will happen again. Comment 2. This would be the absolute moment that I would start looking at my future father-in-law with suspicion. Because if the picture looked the way you said it did, what the heck was the problem? And your boyfriend, what's up with that? He didn't even see the picture and he disagreed with his father automatically. Have a conversation with your boyfriend as soon as possible. After that, I think you should file a missing balls report for your boyfriend because he definitely doesn't have any, for goodness sake. Now for the update. A few days after the awkward thing with my boyfriend's dad, we talked about what happened. I thought we could finally agree, but nope. He brushed it off like it was no big deal, saying his dad was just looking out for me. Like what even? I tried to explain how I felt, but he just kept interrupting me and shifting the focus to his dad's good intentions. I get that his dad thinks he's being helpful, but this was next level. I felt so alone in that moment, and he didn't even acknowledge that. Then came the family dinner for his mom's birthday. I was really not looking forward to it, but felt like I had to go for the sake of my relationship. The boyfriend's dad brought up the social media issue again, joking about how he's become the social media police. I just sat there, feeling like a complete idiot while everyone laughed. His mom tried to lighten the mood by talking about a family trip they took last summer, and I just wanted to crawl into a hole. The boyfriend praised his mom's cooking, but I felt so sidelined and unheard. After dinner, his sister suggested a family game night, and everyone was all for it. I hesitated at first, but joined in, desperately trying to fit into their family dynamic. While playing a board game, the boyfriend's dad made another comment about how my photo could come back to haunt me. I felt a knot tighten in my stomach, and when the boyfriend laughed, it made things worse. I decided to step outside for some fresh air, just needing a moment away from everything. He noticed and followed me outside, asking if I was okay. I said I was, but he just nodded and seemed distracted by the game inside. The next day, I was scrolling through my social media and saw a friend's post about a new job opportunity. It was something I was interested in, but now I was second-guessing myself because of all this. Later that week, I got a message from a mutual friend asking about my relationship with the boyfriend. She mentioned hearing gossip about his dad being too controlling. I felt so validated, but also worried. At a weekend family barbecue, his dad pulled me aside to discuss my job search. He suggested I should rethink my online presence for my career prospects. I was so frustrated because I felt like I was being cornered yet again. The boyfriend overheard and joined in, repeating his dad's advice. I just about lost it. I walked off in front of his family, and he chased after me, acting all concerned. We ended up in a heated discussion in the kitchen, voices rising. He accused me of overreacting, claiming his dad cared about my future. He stormed out, leaving me feeling like a complete outsider at the barbecue. A few days later, we were supposed to have a date night, but I confronted him about the ongoing issues. I told him I felt like he wasn't supporting me at all. He admitted he felt torn between me and his family, not wanting to upset anyone. We decided to take a break from family gatherings to focus on our relationship, which felt like a temporary solution at best. Then he called me, suggesting we should talk. During the conversation, he revealed he'd been thinking about what I said regarding his dad. This was a small win, but I needed more. I found out that his dad was planning a weekend trip for the family, and I wasn't invited. Edit. I learned later that the trip was primarily for his mom's birthday, which explained my exclusion. My boyfriend claimed it was just a family gathering, but I sensed his dad's influence. He asked me to join them for dinner afterward, but I declined. I needed time to think things over. Am I the idiot for wanting to know the truth about my mother's death, despite my father's lies and M's coldness? My mother was a type 1 diabetic and died of a heart attack at the age of 24 when I was 7 months old. My dad remarried 4 months after my mother died. I'll call her M. She is the only mother I've ever known. My paternal and maternal grandmothers fought for custody of me after my mother died, and my dad won. Shortly after the custody battle, my dad moved us away from all of our family and cut off contact, claiming that none of them seemed to like M. My maternal grandmother was granted visitation rights, so my dad would meet her halfway, and she would take me out of state to her house. I found out that my mother died when I was 9 years old when my maternal grandmother sat me down and told me. Whenever I would ask my dad about my mother, he always seemed upset and said he didn't want to talk about her. A few months ago, I sat down with my dad and asked again if he would talk to me about her because I was curious about her. The last time I had tried to ask, I was a teenager. He told me that she had mental health issues and that they broke up before I was born, that he tried to go back and make it work afterwards, but he caught her talking to another man on the computer. He really had nothing nice to say about her, unfortunately. Recently, my dad and M have connected with my grandparents again. I asked my paternal grandmother about my mother, and one of the things she said was, "Your mother was never the problem with what happened between the two of them," but did not go into detail, and I didn't press. My maternal grandmother explained to me that when my mother was pregnant with me, she found out that my dad was cheating on her with M. He left her halfway through the pregnancy and missed my birth, even though she had tried to contact him. He finally came to the hospital because I had to be kept for a while due to health issues. She said that my mother was a single mother after my birth and that my dad may have seen me twice in the 7 months before she died. My mother also went back to school after I was born and was working on finishing a law degree. I struggle knowing that my dad married his mistress after his wife died and kept me from my grandparents because of that, causing me to miss out on time with them as a kid. M was very emotionally neglectful to me as a kid, and we've never really connected. I felt as if I was treated like a stepchild compared to their other kids. My mother had made so many baby albums that she never got to finish and had written so many notes about how she loved me. It hurts knowing I never got to know her or experience that love. I don't know who to believe, and I don't want to cause issues. My dad and M have ignored my husband and me in the past if they've been upset with me, and I'm afraid if I try to talk to them, they'll cut me off. I love my dad, I just feel like he's not who I thought he was. I feel ridiculous being upset. It's all in the past, it's just very heavy. How do I cope with this without feeling resentment? Now, for a few comments before the update. Comment 1. Your maternal grandmother is telling you the truth. Don't believe your dad for 1 second. All you need to do is look at the timeline to know the truth. He married his affair partner 4 months after your mom's death. Go very low contact with your dad for now. If this keeps bothering you, please seek help from a therapist. Your feelings are valid, and you'll probably need professional help to work through all of your feelings. It's difficult to find out that your dad isn't the man you thought he was. The fact that he prevented you from seeing your grandparents is terrible. He did it so he could control the narrative about what happened with his first marriage. He was a terrible husband to your mom, and he started out as a terrible father to you. Hopefully he ended up being a fairly decent father to you. I'm sorry that M has been unpleasant to you. Go no contact with her if you can. Comment 2. I'm so sorry. What an awful thing to discover about your surviving parent, and so incredibly sad for the loving mother you never got to know. A grief therapist may be more helpful to you in this kind of situation than Reddit. Your dad is clearly lacking emotionally, and you may never get the kind of closure you seek through him. I also just want to add that I completely understand if you want to continue a relationship with your dad despite everything. Those primordial bonds you form as a baby are so powerful and painful to break. If you want to go no contact, that's totally fine too. Do whatever you need to do to keep your inner peace. Don't let anyone on the internet pressure you into one way or another. Now, for the update. 2 days after my last post, my maternal grandma called to remind me about the family dinner for my uncle's birthday this weekend. Never a dull moment, huh? I was hesitant about going because my dad and Em would be there, and honestly, I wasn't in the mood for her attitude. But I figured it might be a good chance to talk to my dad about my mom, so I decided to go. Spoiler alert, it didn't go as planned. When I got to the dinner, the vibe was just, ugh. My dad was being all overly cheerful, which was super weird, and Em was just distant and cold as usual. My younger sister, Kate, was all excited about the cake and getting attention since it's not her birthday or anything, completely oblivious to the tension hanging in the air. I was trying to steer the conversation towards a topic I wanted, my mom. So during dinner, I brought up my mom's birthday, hoping it would get my dad talking, but the second I said it, his expression changed. Like you could see the switch flip. He quickly dismissed it, saying it wasn't the time for that. Em, of course, had to chime in, making some comment about how the past is best left behind. That irritated me more than I can explain, but I kept my mouth shut for the moment. After dinner, I needed some fresh air, so I stepped outside. I was just standing there for a moment, trying to think and not lose it. My younger brother, Max, followed me outside and asked why I looked upset. I explained the situation, but he seemed confused and asked why I even cared about someone I never knew. That question made me feel even more frustrated. I get that he doesn't understand, but try to be empathetic, you know? I went back inside, more determined than ever to talk to my dad. As the family gathered for cake, I noticed Em giving my dad a disapproving look, which made me feel like there was more going on here than I realized. After they cut the cake, I pulled my dad aside and asked him if we could talk privately for a minute. We went to this quiet corner of the house, and I asked him why he avoids talking about my mom. He brushed it off, saying it's a painful subject for everyone. Em had to interrupt us, saying we should focus on the present and not dwell on the past. Dad raised his voice, saying the past isn't worth revisiting and that I should be grateful for the family I have now. Em kept chiming in, insisting that I let go of old grudges. I told them that I wanted to know the truth about my mom, and that's when things got heated. My dad stormed off, and Em glared at me. It made me feel like a little kid getting told off by a teacher. Kate, confused by the loud voices, asked what was going on. I was trying to calm her down, but Em snapped at her to stop asking questions. It was a mess. Before I left, I overheard Em telling my dad that they should just cut me off if I can't accept the family dynamics. That hit hard. I just stood there frozen, realizing what she was implying. I left the house feeling defeated and honestly just crushed. Back home, I got a text from my dad saying he needs some space and that Em is upset. I replied, asking for understanding and clarity, but got no response. Days went by and I heard nothing from him. So I tried to reach out to my maternal grandma for support, but she seemed distant too. I found out that my grandma's been feeling unwell and is concerned about the tension in the family. I felt bad for her and wanted to be there for her, but it was like she was pulling away from me too. As the days stretched on, I got a call from my dad's phone, but it was Em on the line. She told me to stop contacting my dad and to respect the new family dynamics. That call ended abruptly, leaving me stunned and alone. To answer a few questions, I have a good relationship with my siblings, but they don't grasp my feelings about my mom. My maternal grandma's health is fine now, and she's been my main support. My dad and Em have cut off communication completely, which has hurt me a lot. If you like this video, you'll probably like these too. Also, while you're here, please consider subscribing. It's your support that keeps this channel alive and allows me to make better and longer videos. Have a great day.